Okay, you're all MK critics, you're all MK experts, you're all emulation experts. Give me a fucking break. All right, we're going over three things today. We're going over the Godly review. I saw Godly, our boy at Next Gen Gaming, do a video on James MK, who reviewed the MK collection. We're going to go over something James MK was wrong about. We're going to go over something that he was partially right about. And then we're going to go over one of the things that Digital Eclipse needs to fix now. And our friend Fate over in his channel talked about this briefly in a segment, and I want to reiterate it. Let's start with this video I watched by our buddy Next Gen Nostalgia Godly, who talked about this James MK review. The first thing that really stood out to me was how wrong James MK was about the controls and the control setup. He obliterated the user interface when it came to the control setup, and I'm sorry, he's flat out wrong about this. Listen, I thought the same thing. I thought it was bunk and messed up when I first started, using the control setup. But once I learned what they were doing and how it works, that I actually think it's pretty good. Okay, he talked about not being able to map 2 players and 2 fight sticks, and that the controls configurations were all messed up and you couldn't. He's wrong. I'm sorry. I use a fight stick. Second player uses a controller, and I have no problem setting them up. Why? Because the way they did it was you have multiple setups for different types of controllers or joysticks or keyboards or whatever, and they're named P1, P2, A, B, C, whatever. They give you tons of presets that you can set up for different types of controllers. Now, do I wish they had labels for these? Yes, I do. I wish they had, controller, fight stick, keyboard, and you would just name those profiles how they were, how you wanted them to be named, and then you knew which setup was for which type of controller or joystick. Okay, but you have a P1 and a P2 and an A, B, C. You can map those for any types of controllers or fight sticks or whatever you want, and have multiple setups. Now, once you go into a versus mode, each player gets to select their template that they want to use, their controller configuration that they want to use while they're fighting the other person. So if I want, as player 1, to use my fight stick configuration, I select the profile that is for my fight stick. In my case, it's P1. P1 is my fight stick. The A that I use is for a controller, is for my Pro controller on my Switch 2. So if player 2 is using the Pro controller, I switch the player 2 configuration to A, to set up A. Okay. Now, there is one problem that I didn't like about it, that you can't select the same button to be two of the same input, which it gives you this error that 2 buttons are mapped to the same input, and then you have to back out and you have to fix it. For a fight stick, this can cause a problem because you only have so many buttons on a fight stick, and for the Switch you need a home button, you need these other buttons, and then you have to have block 1 and block 2, which I don't understand why they did that. You have a run button, so if you run out of buttons, then you're kind of screwed, because you have to map the block 2. You have to map all these buttons, and you need an individual button for each one. Also, per games, if the game is the same, if the game has the same button mapping like MK1 and MK2, the profiles are aligned with those games in one. You don't need a separate profile for every single game when MK1 and MK2 use the same button layout. So he's way off on that. Let's move on to the emulation. Okay, I'm not talking about online play emulate. We know it's bunk. We know it's garbage. And I never really touched on the offline because I didn't play it enough when I first did it. But now I've played it. Now I've played every arcade port on offline mode. I've played many console ports offline. I've played Sub-Zero Mythologies, 90% done with that. I've even, played, I guess because I hate myself, I played Special Forces for as long as I could, which was only about 2 minutes. Okay. The point I'm going to make here is the emulation for these games is standard software emulation. Is it great? Does it match real hardware? No, it doesn't. Okay. And it's not going to. It's standard software emulation. It's as good as anything else you're going to see on any other device where you're playing this on. And don't give me this Fightcade crap, because Fightcade has its issues with emulation as well. And wonky things happen. And we can go back to Fightcade in the controls configuration. That's bunk too. That's garbage. You want to talk about garbage controls? You go into a game, you're playing, you go out, you go into another game and you lost all your configuration and you have to go back and map and input and all this crap. So don't give me that Fightcade's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Is it better? Yes. Okay, I'll give you it. I'll give you the emulation is probably a little better. Okay, but it has its issues as well. People talk about input lag on this offline mode. Every software emulation has input lag. That just is what it is. Okay. And then you add in Bluetooth controllers, you add in your video latency, you got people hitting a button trying to time. Of course there's input lag. That's the way it works with software emulation. You want the real thing, then do FPGA emulation. What did you guys expect? Let's be fair with what we're getting here. It's software emulation. It's going to have input lag. Okay, I had to come back here because as I finished this video, Maximilian Dude put out a video talking about emulation and the input lag. What timing? Let's take a look at what he said. But what I first want to say is I really didn't know that PlayStation was so bad because I wasn't playing it on that. But he goes over the input latency, and this is what he has to say.
The game was like kind of normal, and there's a reason behind that. Input delay, right? So how bad is it? And I'll tell you guys how rough this is. So the PlayStation version was eclipsing over 100 ms of delay, which is just nuts. But the more important results, a lot of people started saying impressions like, I'm playing on the Xbox version and it seems fine. And to be real, at about 4-ish frames, I could see why you would say that. The Xbox version will not inherently feel that much different unless you're a massive hardcore to the previous versions of the game. The PC version's at 22, 1 frame. Like 1.5. This would rival even that of like Fightcade emulation. Anybody's very negative impression of how the game feels on the PlayStation, that still stands, bro. Like you were not incorrect. However, the game is on multiple platforms.
Okay, I trust his input lag data. I trust that when he says you probably don't notice, the input lag as compared to other emulation, I believe it. And when he says that the Steam or the PC version is almost just as good as Fightcade, I believe it. And kind of been what I was saying in this video. So let's get back to the rest of what I was saying. It's going to have input lag. I played every one. It plays fine. Okay. It plays fine. I don't have a problem with it offline. I really don't. Okay. Do I know that there's input lag? Yes, I do. I get it. Okay. Or were there certain bugs or glitches, I guess, people were having with maybe getting to special characters? I don't know. I guess maybe I saw the MK4 thing where you Scorpion runs through. That didn't happen on mine. I'm on Switch 2. I don't know. Maybe they fixed it. I don't know. But also when you add these special character, quick plays where you're getting to them already and you start messing with the emulation and you want those benefits, yeah, maybe it's going to mess up something until they fix that bug, okay, until they figure that out. But here's an example of a guy who played MK1. This guy, Megatron, has played more Mortal Kombat than any of you on emulation, every emulation. This guy knows how the game should play. And he did a video where he played through MK1 arcade. And I wrote him and said, what's the emulation like? And his response was, it's great. I like the sound, plays fine. If this guy's saying it plays fine, I trust him. Okay. The guy who has played this more than anybody I've ever known, this guy plays it and he said it's fine. Okay. Is it great? No, offline. It's not great. Okay. Could they have used some run ahead feature to try and reduce input lag? Sure, I guess. But for people who know about run ahead, it messes with the emulation. It causes jitter and other stuff. It's not good to use the run ahead feature. Okay. So maybe we should just be a little fair with what you were getting. You knew what you were getting. You knew it was software emulation. You shouldn't be surprised when you have a little bit of input lag, especially when you add in the type of controller you're using. Who knows what type of TV you're using with how much video latency. Compile it all up. That's what you get. Okay. Moving on to the last thing. Okay. I saw Fate talk about a problem with the MK collections. This is a huge problem that they got to fix fast, because he nailed it on the head when he said that the inability to select multiple games for matchmaking, and I mentioned this too in my top 5 fixes that need to be done. I mentioned this weeks ago. I said this got to be done ASAP. You got to be able to select more games for matchmaking. That gives the ability for the person to have more of a pool of players and a pool of games to start matchmaking with. Because we all know, like he said, as the weeks and the months go by, the player pool diminishes. People don't play as much, not as many people online. Okay. So with that said, you're going to need to make matchmaking faster by opening up the number of games that you can matchmake at one time. This is the number one fix that has to be done ASAP. Okay. Even if it was quick matches, you got to open it up. And you should, I'm guessing they're going to put some sort of lobby system in where you have multiple games, just like they did with the 30th anniversary. But this is the number one fix. Fate said it. He's right. It's got to be done fast. I know you're going to leave comments in the bottom. I know I'm going to get harassed about what I said, but I'm telling you, I don't have a problem with the offline emulation. Leave your comments, badger me, badmouth me. I don't care. Put whatever you want in there. But let's just be fair with what we knew we were getting and what we paid for.